Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe truth is larger than any one book or way. Religion and science go hand in hand. Integrity requires freedom of conscience. Diversity is something to celebrate. In the struggle for justice, we come alive. Our highest aspiration and calling is love. In our eyes to see that life abounds, open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever path you are on, you are welcome here. Will West Shore's newest members come forward to help light our chalice this morning? They are Angeline Summers Marvel, Serjanka Aristan, Raven Franklin, Steve Piles, Chad Schley, Lynn DiMarino, Kelly Salada, David Wen, Julie Wen, and their son Wesley, and Karen Wen. Membership at West Shore is about building a solid foundation, spiritual foundation for oneself and one's family and children. As a member, you join your light to that of our larger community in hope, in faith, and in love. If you're new to Unitarian Universalism, you are coming to learn very quickly that every service we do, we light a chalice to begin. And we do that because it is such a solemn and beautiful ritual for us that says a lot about our heart, our commitment to genuine spiritual values. And one of the ways we're starting to do this at West Shore to really send that signal is we are using something called a Zimbalstern. There's a little tinkling sound, right? You might have heard that. When we light the chalice, we're starting to sound the Zimbalstern. That's it. Because it's a holy moment when we light that chalice, a meaningful, heart-filled moment. So this is how we're saying that, and there we go. It's lit.
Our new members bring their children into our community. I ask that all the children of West Shore rise in body or spirit. So if you are a child or youth, please stand up. Please continue to welcome people who are new to the play, learning, and love of our community. If you will do this, say loud and clear, "We will." We will. Thank you, children and youth. You can sit down.
Will the members of the congregation please rise and respond to the words, or with the words printed on the screen and in your order of service. Let's say these together. We receive you with open hands and hearts. As you join us, we once again renew our own commitment to this religious community. We are proud and happy to have you among us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Please celebrate these folks during coffee hour after the service. They'll be signing the book then, so please cheer them on. Welcome, 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 welcome. I hope your journey is wonderful. Welcome to you. Welcome to you. Welcome to you. Welcome to you. I hope your journey is wonderful here at West Shore. Congratulations. 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 You can be seated now. You can be seated. Isn't that great? Oh my gosh, right? Isn't that fantastic? Come on, that's lovely. Once again, welcome to everyone here at West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church, and happy Earth Day. That was yesterday. But we take a moment now to acknowledge it and to honor the wisdom of nature. Said that great soul of Taoism, Lao Tzu, nature does not hurry, yet everything important is accomplished. I don't know about you, but hurrying is one of the great challenges of daily existence, right? Hurrying. And it is easy to neglect some of the most important things as we try to manage all of the small details. But you are here. May this morning be a balm to your spirit, for your soul. May important things to your spiritual nature happen to you in our time together today. We've got a lot of great stuff going on here at West Shore. You want to check out your West Shore Weekly as the insert in your order of service about events coming up, how you can get involved. Two things I want to mention in particular. Number one, Earth Fest, which is coming our way next Saturday, April 29th. It is a celebration of caring for Mother Earth. Connect with groups and businesses involved with earth-friendly practices. You can learn from just a bunch of community groups and nonprofits. You can be inspired by others who share your environmental attitudes and values. Lots of activities for children. This is an all-ages event. Invite friends to come with you. Find out more at the Earth Fest table, which is in the rotunda right after our service today. A couple weeks after Earth Fest, we're going to have our first ever drag queen bingo event, okay, on May 12th. So that's the second thing I want to mention. I believe there's just a few tickets available. They sold out our first run within 5 days, but I think there's a couple extra tickets available, so be on the lookout about that. It's also about supporting our West Shore ministries and also the work of Colors Youth Center located in Fairview Park. So that's a community organization we're also doing this fundraiser on behalf of. It strengthens LGBTQ+ youth and allies. Help us to be successful by not only attending if you can, but also donating prize items. prize items. Help us to be successful. Find out more in your weekly e-news about how you can do that. I also want to welcome the newest member of our Worship Associates team, Ria Terranova Webb. Show her some love. This is her first time. Wonderful, wonderful. Let's now greet each other warmly. While we are doing this, children and youth will go on to their classes. If you see someone you have not met before, please, please, please say hello to them, and maybe offer a wave to the folks watching at home. Others, we mourn the legacies of oppression. Healing is our way forward. Joy is the birthright of all. This is week 3 of our annual pledge drive, and love is bringing us together. The love we have for this community, which is our community, our friends, our children, our values, our hopes for the future. As we heard Scott and Dawn say last Sunday, paying for this place is up to only around 280 households of us. Staying strong, maybe even growing, is up to us and only us. I want you to know, when I made my annual pledge, I thought about the good things that have happened here, things I have experienced. I felt the love. I felt the appreciation. And then I got out my pledge form and I channeled that love and appreciation through a pen when I wrote down the amount that I would pay for July of 2023 through June of 2024, our next program year. It was more than last year's pledge, and it felt very satisfying. I just want more good things to happen here at West Shore. I want there to be more love. That's the meaning I felt and I feel from the pledge that I made. I want to invite you to do something similar right now. Take a moment right now to think of one or several good things that have happened for you here at West Shore. Everyone should have a note card. Everyone should have a note card. If you don't have one, raise your hand and one of the ushers will run one to you. There are pencils in the pews. Dave is going to play some lovely music in a moment when I say the word, but while he's playing that music, think of a story or two that tells about a way in which you've seen something wonderful or experienced something wonderful here at this church. If you're at home, you can send me an email where you share your stories like that. And we're going to hear some of these stories next week in next week's service. So I'm looking forward to reading people's stories. When you're done, hold on to your note card. Okay, Dave, hit it. You know, one of the stories that I could share is simply this one. When you come into a space like this, you meet some really cool people, right? And of course, I'm thinking about Midge Squire, the Reverend Midge Squire. Her memorial service was here yesterday, but what an enormously interesting person. You meet cool people here. Maybe that's your story. There might have been some other stories. I hope that was a wonderful moment for you, satisfying, just to think about good things that you've been able to plug into because of your participation here at West Shore. Above all, I want to encourage you to go the distance and make your actual pledge so you can do your part to make sure that more good things happen next year. And there's many options for you to do this. If you're a part of an affinity group, you will have an opportunity to pledge at one of your meetings. You can make your pledge right after the service at a table in the rotunda. Suhanna Kiris, our finance manager, is at that table. You can just make it right after the service. You can go online and make your pledge on Realm. You can call Suhanna Kiris in the West Shore office during the week, and she'll help you. And there's also Sunday, May 7th, which will be our beautiful Commitment Sunday. I don't know if West Shore's ever experienced something like that, but come expecting an inspirational, celebratory time. That'll be another opportunity for people to make their pledge. Our ushers will now collect your note cards and any other financial gifts that you wish to make at this time to support the many ministries of our church. Thank you.
Good morning, and welcome new members. I'd just like to take a short moment here to welcome you especially. It was just been a mere 6 months since I wore the corsage of a new member, and just barely a year since I first walked through those doors. West Shore's become a spiritual refuge for me in that time, where I've been welcomed to share my little light in so many ways. May it be so for you as well. Welcome again. Our reading today is from Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass. The Wendigo is the legendary monster of our Anishinaabe people, the villain of a tale told on freezing nights in the North Woods. You can feel it lurking behind you, a being in the shape of an outsized man 10 feet tall, with frost-white hair hanging from its shaking body. With arms like tree trunks and feet as big as snowshoes, it travels easily through the blizzards of the hungry time, stalking us. The hideous stench of its carrion breath poisons the clean scent of snow as it pants behind us. Yellow fangs hang from its mouth that is raw where it has chewed off its lips from hunger. Most telling of all, its heart is made of ice. Wendigo stories were told around the fire to scare children into safe behavior, lest this Ojibwe boogeyman make a meal of them, or worse. This monster is no bear or howling wolf, no natural beast. Wendigos are not born, they are made. The Wendigo is a human being who has become a cannibal monster. Its bite will transform victims into cannibals too. Starvation in winter was a reality for our people, particularly in the era of the Little Ice Age, when winters were especially hard and long. Some scholars suggest that Wendigo mythology also spread quickly in the time of the fur trade, when overexploitation of game brought famine to the villages. The ever-present fear of winter famine is embodied in the icy hunger and gaping maw of the Wendigo. Wendigo stories reinforce the taboo against cannibalism, when the madness of hunger and isolation rustled at the edge of winter lodges. Succumbing to such a repulsive urge doomed the gnawer of bones to wander as a Wendigo for the rest of time. It is said that the Wendigo will never enter the spirit world, but will suffer the eternal pain of need, its essence, a hunger that will never be sated. The more a Wendigo eats, the more ravenous it becomes. It shrieks with its craving, its mind a torture of unmet want. Consumed by consumption, it lays waste to humankind. But the Wendigo is more than just a mythic monster intended to frighten children. Creation stories offer a glimpse into the worldview of a people, of how they understand themselves, their place in the world, and the ideals to which they aspire. Likewise, the collective fears and deepest values of a people are also seen in the visage of the monsters they create. Born of our fears and our failings, Wendigo is the name for that within us which cares more for its own survival than for anything else.
Senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Robin Wall Kimmerer, in her book Braiding Sweetgrass, brings us into indigenous wisdom teachings, and it must feel so bittersweet for her to usher her fellow Americans into this traditional wisdom with the pride of knowing how right on it is. Yet the long history leading to the present cannot be erased, which is a history of white dominant culture at war with Native America. If not killing them, then with their children striving to re-educate them to white culture ways, striving to erase any trace of Indian culture in their hearts and minds. Make no mistake about it. Kimmerer's offering in Braiding Sweetgrass reflects generosity of the highest order. Her tears are tears of sadness mixed with joy. The wisdom she wants to share with us is just too important to hold back. From the book's beginning to end, Braiding Sweetgrass is a gift of love. And what a gift to have been able all year long, once a month, together to dwell within this book, this wisdom. Us, this moving and growing spiritual community, how together we have reflected on some of the most pressing and high priority realities of the day, of climate change, of humanity's relationship to nature, and above all, of where we come from, and what we are, and where we are going. So now, in this last installment of our year-long sermon series, we are introduced to the indigenous wisdom teaching that Wendigo nature is in each of us. This is why, says Robin Wall Kimmerer, Anishinaabe elders remind us to always acknowledge the two faces, the light and the dark side of life, the light and the dark side of life. To acknowledge those two faces in order to understand ourselves. See the dark, recognize its power, but do not feed it. You may have already encountered a traditional teaching story that dramatizes this internal dualism very well. It goes something like this. An old Cherokee is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside of me, he says to the boy. It is a terrible fight. It is between two wolves. One is always about greed arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, grievance, lies, false pride, superiority, ego. The other is quite different. It is all about joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, trust, faith. The same fight is going on inside of you too, and inside of every other person. Now the grandson thought about it for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, well, which wolf will win? And the old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed. The one you feed. That's the traditional story. How many of you have heard that before? Great. It's worth hearing over and over and over. But you know, I want to adjust some things somewhat right now. I want to adjust some things. I want to call one of those inner wolves Wendigo. One of those inner wolves is Wendigo. Wendigo is the inner wolf that is characterized by greed, by arrogance, by self-pity, by guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, grievance, false pride, superior ego. Wendigo, says Robin Wall Kimmerer, is the name for that within us which cares more for its own survival than for anything else. Now, I want to say more about the other, or rather about the inner Wendigo, but I don't want to leave that other inner wolf hanging. So as for that other inner wolf, let's call it Nana Bojo. Nana Bojo, you may recall from a previous sermon of mine, is another figure of indigenous myth. He is the first person created by Gitche Manitou, God. Gitche Manitou creates Nana Bojo out of the four elements, breathes life into him, breathes purpose into him. That purpose is to learn how to walk through the world in such a way that each step is a greeting to Mother Earth. The only thing is, Nana Bojo has a problem. He is a trickster figure. Nana Bojo is a trickster figure. He has a voracious appetite, unbridled sexuality, inexhaustible curiosity, and a habit of disrupting settled structures and patterns. So as he begins to walk through the world, his tricky way of walking very often looks like selfish buffoonery. He comes to learn the hard way what happens when he lets it all hang out, as illustrated, for example, by the time when Heron taught Nana Bojo a new way to fish. The new way was ultra effective, and it allowed Nana Bojo to satisfy his total greed. He fished in that lake until there was no more fish to be had. Meanwhile, at home, while all the fish that he caught were drying on a rack, fox came, fox ate them all up. Nana Bojo returned home only to realize that his greed had hurt him. All the fish were gone, no more to be had. He learned a key rule that day: never take more than you need. The main thing is, I'm urgent for you to hear that the situation with the two inner wolves is not a boring echo of what we know in Christian myth as a battle between Satan versus God. It is not that. It is not absolute evil versus absolute good. It is not an all or nothing, black and white sort of thing. It is not any of that. It is less tidy. It is more complex. It is more human. On the one hand, there's the inner Wendigo part that is so wrapped up with its own fear and its own pain that he cannot empathize with anything and anyone beyond him. On the other hand, there's that other inner part, the Nana Bojo part, which has definite potentials for goodness, but to get there, Nanabojo has got to work through his tendencies towards selfish buffoonery. This inner Nanabojo part is never intentionally cruel or foul. He's just ignorant. And he's got to learn the hard way. He's got to learn the hard way. He lives, this inner Nanabojo of us, lives the distinctly human dilemma. He wants immediate gratification for all of his desires, but he also wants a well-ordered society, and you just cannot have both. So how do you find the right balance? Says scholar Paul Radin in his book entitled The Trickster, A Study in American Indian Mythology. He says, Nanabojo's task is to grow up and to see that human beings grow up with him. The real question that traditional wisdom poses before us through the story of the two wolves is this: can a person disidentify from the drama of the inner Wendigo wolf? Can a person, through the exercise of their will and the direction of their conscious focus, gradually learn not to get so caught up in the fear and the greed of that inner Wendigo? Instead, can their focus be more on the cultivation of the inner Nanabojo, who, yes, is tricky, full of all sorts of passions, but has growth potential through the roof? And it's a tall order. Native wisdom about Wendigo, I believe, reflects cutting-edge biological science about our evolution-based bodies and brains, which are tuned to the negative. Science shows they are tuned to the negative. Psychiatrist Russ Harris helps to explain. He says, our minds evolved to help us survive in a world fraught with danger. The number one priority of the primitive human mind was to look out for anything that might harm you and avoid it. The primitive human mind was basically a don't-get-killed device. Evolution, Russ Harris goes on to say, has shaped our brains so that we are hardwired to suffer psychologically, to compare, to evaluate, to criticize ourselves, to focus on what we're lacking, to rapidly become dissatisfied with what we have, and to imagine all sorts of frightening scenarios, most of which will never happen. In other words, fear and greed, fear and greed. That's the origin of the inner Wendigo. That is the root. As long as we have evolution-based brains and bodies, there will always be that existential anxiety and fear and the impulse to stay safe through aggression and greed. And it doesn't have to be that way. Our inner Nanabojo wolf can definitely come out as the winner. But it won't be easy. we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Indigenous wisdom has an answer. We come from a struggle of inner parts, two wolves. Our choices around that define who we are and where we will go. One inner wolf is Wendigo, rooted in our evolution-based bodies and brains, which are tuned towards negativity, which are incessantly anxious, which tend towards self-centered aggression and greed. The other inner wolf is Nanabojo. He has immense appetites, and because of ignorance, can get into trouble through his scheming and his trickery. But his heart is essentially good, and the more he grows up, the better his actions turn out to be, with better consequences for all concerned. The inner Nanabojo is the part in us that is available to achieve the concord that our choir just sang about. We must, says indigenous wisdom, always acknowledge these two faces within, the light and the dark side of life, in order to understand ourselves. See the dark, recognize its power, but do not feed it. In other words, do not get caught up in the Wendigo's negativity-based, fear-based drama. Feed the inner Nanabojo wolf instead. Help it satisfy its desires in ways that become a blessing for all. And this is obviously easier said than done. The main reason why is suggested by what we at West Shore now know as the 8th principle of Unitarian Universalism, but which, in the end, after the 2-year process of amending Article 2 of the UUA bylaws, will probably have a different name. For now, it is the 8th principle. And this principle speaks of systems of oppression and the need to dismantle them. Essentially, a system of oppression is the inner Wendigo, which has become externalized and freestanding. It reflects entrenched patterns of behavior which are handed down to future generations, and those future generations, they don't necessarily know any of the stories explaining why those behaviors were invented to begin with. All they know, as the future generation, all they know is that this is the way the world works. All they know are the pressures of being socialized into the system, of getting with the program. And if they resist, if we resist, we risk losing the love of our primary caregivers and our community, which in turn triggers even more Wendigo feelings of anxiety and fear, feelings of greed and aggression. On March 27th of this year, a mass shooting occurred at a school in Nashville, Tennessee. 3 9-year-old children and 3 adults were killed before this shooter was taken down by the police. In the wake of this, Republican lawmakers in Tennessee awarded final passage to a proposal that would further protect gun and ammunition dealers, manufacturers, and sellers against lawsuits, protect them against lawsuits. And then we saw this in the news, the Christmas card of Tennessee Representative Andy Ogles, who represents the district that the school is in. If it's hard for you to see that picture, please go to my blog site. It's up. I want you to see this. This Christmas card, sent in 2021, it came with a statement. The quotation of, I'm not sure who, but this is the statement. The very atmosphere of firearms anywhere and everywhere restrains evil interference. They deserve a place of honor with all that is good. All of this now, the inner Wendigo fear its externalization through gun culture, legislators defending gun culture immediately after yet another instance of gun violence. The very picture of a family where you see children socialized into gun culture and they don't really have a choice in the matter. It is about avoiding the loss of love and connection. All of this is Wendigo. Does that make sense for me to say? That's Wendigo. This is just one of the systems of oppression that our Unitarian Universalist eighth principle is talking about. Just one. There are so many others. We know it. So many other isms: sexism, racism, classism, homophobia, transphobia, on, which crystallize. These systems only crystallize and deepen the inner Wendigo anxiety and greed. It's like external Wendigo singing to inner Wendigo. They play off each other. They reinforce each other. With specific regard to humanity's relationship with the land now, Robin Wall Kimmerer is quick to call out what she calls the, quote, neoclassical fallacy that human consumption has no consequences. She says, we continue to embrace economic systems that prescribe infinite growth on a finite planet, as if somehow the universe had repealed the laws of thermodynamics on our behalf. Perpetual growth, she says, is simply not compatible with natural law, and yet a leading economist like Lawrence Summers of Harvard, the World Bank, and the U.S. National Economic Council issues such statements as, there are no limits to the carrying capacity of the earth that are likely to bind at any time in the foreseeable future. The idea that we should put limits on growth because of some natural limit is a profound error. That's what he says. So Kimmerer concludes, our leaders willfully ignore the wisdom and the models of every other species on the planet, except, of course, those that have gone extinct. And then she says, Wendigo thinking, unquote. I just want to say, preach it, sister. Preach it, sister. Come on, let me, preach it, sister. Oh, one more time, that felt good. And we are preaching it with her. We are preaching it with her. West Shore Unitarian Universalist Church exists to create justice-hearted people who will go out into our world and lead with Nanabojo energy and not Wendigo energy. This church exists to call out Wendigo in ourselves and in the world, and to proclaim that it doesn't have to be this way. The theology of this church, the sermons of this church, the music of this church, the religious education classes of this church, the committees of this church, everything we do, whether or not they are explicitly tied to social justice initiatives, everything we do, it's all about the creation of a certain kind of character in people, where the emphasis is on Nanabojo, maturity, and positivity, and creativity, and courage, and commitment. Nanabojo knows better than anyone else what it is like to screw up. Nanabojo falls down all the time, again and again and again. But you know what? Nanabojo gets back up. He gets back up, he tries again, and that's the point. He tries, he gets, eventually he succeeds. That's the point. Wendigo in ourselves and in this world is strong, powerful, but we must never forget, so is Nanabojo. And I am asking you this morning to be aware of the two wolves in your heart and to choose Nanabojo. Don't let your fear about the immensity of Wendigo get the better of you, because that is just more Wendigo. We have to feed Nanabojo. Focus your will. Focus your priorities. Do what you can. Do what you are called to do. I am only one, says Edwin Everett Hale. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. Let that be where we are coming from. Let that be what we are. Let that be where we're going. That's it. Let's say our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again. Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind. There find the key to nature's harmony, in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join with love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings. In the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth ever giving. And now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives worth living, for the oneness of everything. Still we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly designed. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart, to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life enters my soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything. The two wolves within. The inner Wendigo drama of fear and greed, the inner Nana Bojo energy of creativity and wonder and awe. Take with you today this reality of our human living, the inner fight of those two wolves, but also the power of choice, the power of what you focus on, the power of what wolf you choose to feed. Be justice-hearted in your choices and your character. Let this enter into your soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything.